See that? Yeah, okay, good. All right, here we go. So this is a spreadsheet I built with that HOCl molecule. Is it moving for you? Okay, good. And so I've got, all the constants here, Planck's constant, speed of light in centimeters per second, Avogadro's number, the gas constant and all these different values. I've got one molecule, okay, and it's 1/Avogadro's number in terms of number of moles. The pressure, and then this is the gas temperature, and calculating the translation of the gas. So for the molar mass, we can calculate the translational partition function. So that's using all of those things. It's using this first part of the equation. See that? So here's the, that temperature over lambda cubed, that translational wavelength. And then here's the volume term, okay, nRT over P. And so we've got all of that right here. This temperature max and min, this is just for the plot down here. And so here we can see that this dashed line is the partition function for translation, and it's plotted over here on the right vertical axis. See, it goes up to 10 to the 7th, okay? So we're talking hundreds of thousands of energy levels that are populated at room temperature for this molecule. And then for the rotational partition function here, that just uses theta A, B, and C, those rotational temperatures, and the square root of pi, and the symmetry number, and all of that stuff. And that's plotted here in the orange. That's this one right here. And it's plotted on this left axis. And you see it's 2,000. Instead of something times 10 to the 7th, it's 10 to the 3. So where's most of the energy of this molecule stored in terms of room temperature? Like if we're at room temperature and this molecule is floating around in a gas phase, where's most of the energy stored? The Q values tell you how many levels are populated. And so most of that energy is stored in translation. So when we talk about heat being transferred by gases through translation, that's why. It's the translational motion that are carrying all of that heat. So there's a lot of heat in the rotation too, 2,000 versus 100,000, okay? But still, the translational motion has 100,000 energy levels, 100 times more energy levels populated than the rotation levels. Then we get to vibrations. Now we haven't talked about vibrations yet. We'll do that next, but those are plotted on here too. So on this chart, again, that's Q rotation on the left, Q translation on the right. I went ahead and plotted the vibrational levels on this same scale as the Q rotation. So how much energy level is stored in the vibrations of this molecule? Yeah, none, almost none. If we zoom in on it, I think I have the vibration here. Here's the 3 vibrational modes, because it's a triatomic molecule, so 3n minus 6. So we've got 3 vibrational motions. Here they are in wave numbers, 700 wave numbers for vibration number 1. That would be the chlorine oxygen stretch, okay? Then we have 1298. This is a chlorine oxygen with a hydrogen stuck off on an axis, and that's the bend of that hydrogen. So it's not a very strong force constant, but it's not a very heavy mass either. So it moves pretty fast. And so that's 1200. And then the 3699 is the vibrational stretch of the chlorine hydrogen. So the stretching of the hydrogen. So the higher frequency ones are moving the hydrogen. The lowest frequency one is moving the most mass, and that's the chlorine oxygen stretch. So these are your 3 vibrational frequencies. We could convert those from wave numbers to temperature, and so here's your vibrational temperatures. So we would need to be over 1,000 Kelvin to excite this one. We'd need to be over 1,800 Kelvin to excite that one. And to excite the hydrogen stretch, to store energy in it, we'd have to get up to 5,000 Kelvin. So we're not going to do that at room temperature. So we don't store any energy in the vibrations, and we can see that here. This is the Q. Notice they all go to 1. Okay, that's good at low temperature. But here we are at room temperature, close to 300, and this is a count of the number of vibrational levels that are populated. So 1.03. So we have like a 3% chance of 1 out of 100 of those molecules, one of the 3 out of 100 of those molecules might be in the excited state. Okay. So 97 of them are in the ground state. So we're not storing really any energy in the vibrational motions at room temperature. And you can take that to the bank. Big molecules, yeah, we're storing lots of energy in these big floppy. If I've got a molecule that's, 100 angstroms long, okay, that bending mode would be like a piece of wood. Have you ever seen plywood bend? I mean, it'll bend. You can't bend plywood that's this big, but you get it very big and you can bend it. Same with a molecule. Now, that's such a low frequency vibration, I could store energy in that. And so the partition function for that vibrational motion would not be 1. It would be something quite a bit larger. Okay. So that's a little preview of next time in terms of the vibrational motion. Let's go back over here. Okay, so if there aren't any more questions, are there? Anything on the homework? Okay, good. Yes. Is that one of the unit conversion ones? Okay, so on the unit conversion ones, let me go back in the lecture a little bit. Maybe I can find a scratch piece of paper. I'll make a blank slide. Let's do this. Good. Okay. So which read it out to me because I don't have it memorized. Okay, yeah. What is it? Minus 23 joules per Kelvin. Okay, yeah. And so what you have to do is you have to use the definitions because you've got to get from this over to liters, atmospheres per mole Kelvin. So we're good with the Kelvin, right? We could multiply this by Avogadro's number, and we would get a per mole in there. And so if we did K times 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd per mole, okay, then it would show up in the denominator. But how do we get to liters and atmospheres? Well, this K, I'm going to go ahead and put the units on there. So instead of joules, let's do kilograms, meters squared per second squared. That's a joule. And the Kelvin is in the denominator. And another way. So are you familiar with the definition of a Pascal? It's pressure. Yeah. Okay, pressure. It's is a force over area. Okay. So that's equal to a Newton per meter squared. Fair? Okay. Now what's a Newton? Well, this is one of the first equations you learned in physics. Okay, F equals ma, right? And so in that case, mass is a kilogram and acceleration is a meter per second squared. And so this is equal, that's the units on the Newton. Okay, so that's a kilogram meter per second squared over meter squared. So that's the units for Pascal. So you can use the Pascal units in here. And then you can also use the definition of an atmosphere. 1 atmosphere is equal to 101,325 pascals. And that'll get you to atmospheres. And then you need to get to liters. So 1 liter is equal to, well, let me do 1 meter cubed. Because that's a volume, and that's equal to 1,000 liters. So there, if you've got, with the Pascal and the joule and all those meters, you'll be able to get to a meter cubed, and then you can convert that meter cubed to liters. So this is a crazy problem in just unit conversion. But you know what? You know the answer already. Okay. Do you know what the answer is? Anybody? R? Yeah. So these units should look familiar. And you know a number that's equal to those, that has those units, and that's 0.08206 liters atmospheres per mole Kelvin. But I want you to go through and show how we get there, okay? Now, I can't check your work, but you're cheating yourself if you don't. Okay? This is way better than Sudoku. Like, try to figure out how to get to liters atmospheres per mole Kelvin. And you just use all your definitions to convert units to units. Okay? Yeah. So it's a seemingly simple problem, but it gets tricky when you're trying to get out of joules into pascals, out of pascals into atmospheres, out of meters cubed into liters. So those are the main steps. So you've been using Boltzmann's constant all this time since your freshman year in the gas law. Yeah, it's just Boltzmann's constant in different units. And then same thing with joules per mole Kelvin when we used it for like the velocity of a gas. It was the effusion rate was related to the velocity of a gas, which was 3 RT over M. That R there was 8.3 times 8.3 joules per mole Kelvin, and that's just Boltzmann's constant times Avogadro's number. So that's pretty neat that we've been using Boltzmann's constant the whole time. That's why he's my favorite scientist, because he's everywhere and you don't even know it. Kind of got a raw deal, you know. They should have his name on everything. Okay, so that's my mission. All right, y'all have a great weekend.